Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. That not just a plant, it is the plant. This will be the motto on the back of our shirts for the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest. Reverend Will here beside me, and you got Dank Bagman, or Dank right here. So we're talking about things coming up and events coming up and legislature. I wanted to speak briefly. This will be done by the time this airs, but I did want to talk about it. Tuesday, April 2nd, there's going to be a hearing in Salem on 3371, the legalization initiative. And then the following Wednesday, there's going to be a hearing on the 281, SB 281, adding PTSD. So we're not needing people to testify for these, but it would be nice for people to be there in support if they could make it.
You mean we wouldn't be able to testify if we were there?
Correct. If we went, we would not be able to testify. You can submit written testimony, but you cannot. They were limited the hearing on Tuesday, tomorrow. Excuse me, 3371, and they're limiting it to 3 people pro and 3 con. They're trying to keep the number down of people.
Well, so I suppose our lawyers and other benefactors are the ones who will be speaking on our behalf at that.
I've forgotten who it is now. I had the list, but I don't know. I can't remember who it is now. But they speak well. I think they do all right. So that's what's happening in the legislature, and there'll be some more things going on in the summer. So stay tuned, and we'll be making an announcement when we need to go up and testify. That's the important thing. But we do need support. The walls are coming down, and even when the Oregon legislature is looking at a legalization bill. That's news, you know, so we're getting there.
Yeah, but you know me, I'm impatient. I wanted it last year and 10 years ago, and stopping all these people from being arrested, all that, you know. So one of the things that we're doing along the same lines is that we're having our 420 event this year, where we're having 420 at 420, and we're asking people to come out, be outside. If you have neighbors that you would like to get to know, take a chance. You know, just go out in the street, have your puff, then maybe stop over and talk to them, ask them how they felt about it. You know, if they're really nervous and stuff, well, you could let them know that you won't do it again. You know, this was just something where we're just trying to get people to see the discrimination that apparently they can't see any other way. And that is, if you have to go home to do your medicine, someone out there, write me, call me, whatever, through the show, let me know how they're keeping you down on the farm by having you go home to do your medicine, any kind of medicine. As far as I know, opiates, anything, you don't have to go home to do them. But we do, and then you have the audacity to talk to us about secondhand smoke. Now understand, if we're supposed to be home doing our medicines, who's getting the secondhand smoke? Except us and people who come into our homes to maybe share with us. So I don't really see how secondhand smoke is a problem. Now if you go public with it, then I need to see the proof that says that the secondhand smoke from marijuana is as damaging as the secondhand smoke from cigarettes. Because not only is there secondhand smoke, but there's tertiary smoke from cigarettes, where it clings to your clothes and clings to your cars and clings to everything you touch. Just because you can't smell it, because you've lost your olfactory senses from smoking cigarettes, doesn't mean the rest of us don't have to deal with it. And I'd like to know why that's not considered recklessly endangering when you're walking down the street with a cigarette with a child, either in your arms, in a sling, in a stroller, in your car. You know, to me, when you come to my home and I'm not even doing anything, not smoking anything, vaporizing anything, eating anything, you come into my home and you add that as a charge whenever you're trying to convict me. Yet people walk down the streets and in their homes and in their cars, they smoke with their children. Secondhand tertiary smoke is okay. Now, how can you talk to us about being stoned if you can't figure this simple kind of crap out when you're straight? Okay, think about that for a minute, folks, because you claim more intelligence than us because we smoke. But I mean, we don't have a problem figuring this out. We'll sit down and talk to you about it anytime. But you can't figure it out that when you're smoking cigarettes, you're smoking things that you can't even put in houses.
Well, like Russ Bill says, he says the interesting thing about marijuana is that how it addles the brains of people that don't even use it.
Yeah, good old Russ. You know, so on 420, at 420, wherever you're at, we're asking you to come out, have pride. We call it pot pride, marijuana pride. Marijuana is the term used by the police. We like pot pride. So we're going with that. Even have it on my shirt. You're not going to be able to see it, but I still want to show it off anyway.
No, but I'll try to get the image in for the show. We've got an image that, I don't know who brought it out. It's been out for years. It shows an equal sign with a circle around it with a pot leaf at the top. Pot pride.
Pot
definitely
pride.
Nothing to be, we definitely should be proud. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And that's what we're really going to play up on the 420. And like Will said, no matter where you're at 420, celebrate 420. However, we are having a 420 celebration at the Bull Branch. This is an annual event. It's on private property, but it's open to the public. So you can come down to the Franklin Boulevard behind the Dairy Mart and to the Bull Branch on Saturday, April 20th, 420. I haven't checked. I've forgotten what time. Do you know what time they start? I do know. Of course, 420. But I'm thinking they'll start coming together in the mid-afternoon at least.
Probably around 2. I don't think there would be any problem for anybody to be showing up around 2.
No.
We do ask that you can, if you can use alternative transportation, we ask you to do so because there isn't that much of an area for parking.
That's right. Number 11, bus number 11.
Bus number 11.
Right there.
Brooklyn is the name of the street. The Dairy Mart's where it's at. It's first house past the Dairy Mart. Jim Guthrie has been doing this for years, and it's his property, and he's awesome. You know, they have a nice stage that they set up. I'm sure we'll have some music.
Oh yeah, there's live music. There'll be speakers. The open fire pit.
So, and at 420, it'll be everybody toasting our right to be proud. Just like all the other different segments of our society that have to work to be proud because our government is a bully and just does not want to allow us our natural God-given freedoms. It's amazing. But I have a story to tell you about a friend of mine who got sick in Albany and went to the hospital there, and she goes in and she's depressed. She's having a hard time, and she's throwing up, and so they end up keeping her there for 5 days. Out of those 5 days, they give her 4 pregnancy tests, and they also do all these other tests, and they come up with a resounding answer for what her problem is. She smokes too much pot. Now, on top of her getting diagnosed like this, she then is told that she has a $125,000 bill for being in their jail for, jail, their hospital for 5 days. And then they tell her that she's got 90 days to pay it. I got to tell you, folks, she was depressed when she walked in there. When she walked out, she was laughing for days because she kept trying to tell them, what are you talking about? You know, why are you taking these pregnancy tests? What are you telling me that I smoke too much pot? And now you're going to charge me $125,000 for that diagnosis? And then you're going to tell me I have 90 days to pay it?
Makes you wonder who's doing the drugs, huh?
It is questionable when things like this go on. And just for those folks who have a hard time going to the VA, I'd like you to know that there's been a little change in the energy at the VA clinic over off of River Road on River Avenue. It's a very nice feeling. Myself and a couple other people who have actually gone in there, I actually feel like I have a doctor who's listening to me and cares about what's going on with me, which I haven't felt since I lost my first doctor, which was Elizabeth Potter. And the man I have now, Boyle, is he seems to really care about me and is willing to work with me in this process. And that's the way it's supposed to be. When you talk about caring, you're supposed to feel that. You're supposed to be able to feel good about going somewhere and trusting them to give you the kind of information that you can use to make good decisions, great decisions about your health. That's where our better quality of life comes from.
Yep, exactly, and I keep forgetting to give you a copy of that letter about the VA honoring medical marijuana patients that are in the state programs, and I've got that for you to give that to you because I know you'll, like we talked about before,
Right.
Like you were getting, and anybody out there too, for matter, wants a copy of that letter. It's the letter from the Director of the Veterans Administration telling veterans that they will honor patients that are on the state programs.
Well, you know, interestingly enough, whenever I go in there, they ask me if I want to see a shrink, you know, somebody in the mental health field. Excuse me. I always ask them, are they going to help me create a better world? Are they going to help me, you know, change things? And they say no. And I say, well, what good is it going to do? Because my depression comes from an inability to be able to change things, to tell the truth and have them be honored. Because that's the biggest problem we have, and that's why we're working on this Pot Pride Day, is the fact that if we were allowed to do the research, if we were allowed to bring in the companies that could put people to work, if we were allowed to grow in a state where we've already got permission to grow through the state, but the feds who are lying, controlling, and bullying won't allow it. Now, what's wrong with that picture? And Attorney General, I'd really like to know where you're at in this process. I'd like to know your stance, because I believe that we should be able to tell the federal government to stay out of our state, leave our business alone, quit blackmailing us, so that we can get on with creating a better world for our children and grandchildren to live in. So I'm excited that, you know, like I say, the change I felt at the VA, I've also felt with some of my friends who are working things out better and not being so, you know, evil-minded or...
The walls are coming down. I see it more and more all the time, Carl. The walls are coming down and the truth's coming out.
So we want to invite you here anytime. Questions you can send to us. We're at Sheldon High School. We're behind Sheldon High School here. You know, we're right next to KRBM, and we'd love to see you. You'd be more than welcome to come down. You can be on the show or just send us your questions and we'll do what we can to answer them.
You bet. So we'll be back with a second segment. Don't go away.
Are you tired of following all the rules? Ready to let loose? Have a little fun? Sounds like you need to. Get high. And with Narcomex Incorporated, your direct-to-consumer drug trafficking solution, you can. Narcomex values your business. That's why we're your #1 supplier of drugs, and you're our #1 consumer. These billions can't be wrong. We work hard for your business and have killed not 1, not 2, but 3 Mexican police and 2 journalists just to keep you high with that very joint. Why, our commitment to keeping you supplied has killed over 17,000 people right next door. Traffickers, soldiers, journalists, prosecutors, you name it. We're that passionate about your business. We've even begun to destroy some of your favorite tropical beach destinations. Because if you smoke enough at home, you don't even need a beach. But don't legalize it or grow it at home. Let us do the work for you. Sure, consumers boycotted evil companies, but there's no need to boycott Narcomex Incorporated, your direct-to-consumer drug trafficking solution, also offering heroin, meth, and cocaine. Narcomex Incorporated. Live a little, and forget others won't.
Welcome back to Eugene Cannabis TV. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Chelsea and this is Eric from Medicinal Horizons. We're going to talk about a news article that ABC put out while states continue their battle between state rights and federal law. We look at the catch-22 that the government has set on testing and doing research on the benefits of cannabis.
Right. One of the biggest problems in the progression of cannabis and legalization moving forward is the government, specifically the DEA, claims that in this latest decision, the appeals court struck down an effort to change the reclassification of marijuana from Schedule 1 from at least Schedule 2, but most people would agree is Schedule 3. The biggest problem is, Chelsea, and a lot of people don't know this, is that in order to get this scheduling and any of these types of testing done, the DEA approves any type of research for cannabis. So the catch-22 is that they say that there isn't any sufficient research done yet they won't allow the research done that would give us the results that everybody knows would come, which is what most people believe is why the research is not being allowed to happen, is because, well, the research actually has been done before. There has been research done in the past that has been buried and ignored.
Right, and the government is actually growing cannabis in the University of Mississippi and studying it at the moment. But the government has created a drug czar that is a position created specifically to make sure that no Schedule 1 drug ever comes off of a Schedule 1, which creates a huge problem when there's a specific person there sought out to make sure that doesn't happen. But I think that more and more people are starting to find the research and the hypocrisies that's going on, and any of you out there that need any further push that it is necessary, you could look up U.S. Patent 6630507, which it's a patent that is from the United States Department of Health, and it's on cannabinoids for the use of antioxidants and as a neuroprotectant. So they've actually already patented it and claimed that there are medicinal benefits, and yet they're telling us that it's a Schedule 1 that has no benefits medicinally. You know?
Yeah, and for those of you who, let's make some clarification what the scheduling process is. The scheduling of drugs in the country is rated based on their danger, their dependency, how much you have a risk of being addicted to them. And so they start at Schedule 1, and I believe they go up to Schedule 5, if I'm not, I could be wrong, but I know they go up to 4 and 5. As it stands right now, marijuana is in Schedule 1, and a lot of marijuana activists are saying, if you just reschedule this to Schedule 2, it still means it has to be prescribed. It just means that it can be prescribed, and that's the problem right now, is it can't be prescribed. How it states, if you looked up the scheduling of drugs in this country right now, cocaine's in Schedule 2. And so what that essentially means is, according to the federal government, cocaine, powdered cocaine, has more medicinal value than the cannabis plant. Now, I don't know too many organizations out there that are trying to vie for the rescheduling of cocaine. I don't know about any national organizations for the reform of heroin laws. No one's trying to get these drugs legalized because everybody knows that they're not safe. That's one of the problems I think that people don't understand, and they should really need to look into this. You know, last week I had mentioned that people who don't smoke marijuana should vote in favor of these laws, and this is another reason. Even if you don't smoke marijuana, you should be alarmed that these are the practices that our government uses. Whether you feel like this has an effect on you or not, once one thing that they can take away from us, it's the ball starts to roll. Yep. And so the main argument for this is, look at this from a rational standpoint. That's all marijuana legalization activists are asking, is just, let's look at this from a rational standpoint, and Schedule 1, saying that marijuana is just as medically valuable as heroin, as crack cocaine, as LSD, it's just absurd. It's just absurd.
It is. And when I found out that there were 4 patients who are still alive, one of them here in Oregon who receives cannabis sent to them from the United States government, I was shocked. They send them 300 joints in a tin can as their medicine from the government, and they tell us then that it's not medicine, and it doesn't make sense to me that they're giving it to people, but for me, there's no medical value.
Right, you're right. And one thing I always tell people, you know, when I am talking to people all the time about my beliefs on marijuana and cannabis, I always tell them, don't listen to me, go look for yourself.
Yep.
And when it comes to the DEA and the government saying that there is no sufficient studies done out there, while I could sit here and spend the next hour telling you about some of them, the most important one that I feel is the Schaefer report. And this is the one from the 70s that President Nixon himself commissioned a panel, hand-selected by him, of mostly conservatives, the head of which was Governor Raymond Schaefer. He was the governor of Pennsylvania at the time, a conservative Republican. And Nixon apparently thought that they would just go off and come back and tell him what he wanted to hear. Unfortunately for Nixon, he didn't plan on these men having some integrity. And when they came back with their reports, they said, we can find no justification to continually criminalizing this drug, for continually arresting people. And Nixon's response was, well, he flat out rejected it when he heard what their finding was, and then he refused to read it. After which, a smear campaign kind of went against the people who were on the commission, and their credibility was completely wiped out, and simply because they didn't give the president what he was hoping he would find.
And that was years ago, and we're still battling it. And if we could just get past the point that we're already at, where we know that there are medical values. There's 18 states that, including the District of Columbia, where it's a federal, that's a federal territory. They even have medical marijuana laws. We could move forward and do some really important research, do some testing. Speaking of those kinds of things, there's a Senate bill, or is it House Bill 3460, that will add resource centers under the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act to give them some protections. And one of their stipulations would be that you need to test medicine, which is something that would be amazing to have as a requirement. You know, we could move forward and start really seeing what different cannabinoids do for different ailments, instead of this battle that we've been having that is clearly, you know, about to be lost by the federal government. It's only a matter of time before it does become legal, because more people are starting to do the research. And you know, I can't wait to see the day when we can start getting some more research done.
Absolutely. And you know, another point I like to tell people is you have to consider that marijuana, cannabis, it's only been illegal for just over 100 years.
Right.
It's been used by human beings for thousands of years on every continent, save Antarctica. But every continent, every culture, from the ancient Egyptians to the Chinese to the Native Americans to our founding fathers, to which this country was built on the hemp plant.
When they used to say, you know, we'll tax you if you don't grow cannabis because we need it for our sales, we need it for the ships.
All the way up until World War II. World War II was the last war that was pretty much outfitted with the hemp plant. Ropes, canvases, bags, rucksacks, oils, everything. There were so many things that were used for thousands of years. Many people, I'm one of them, believe that the cannabis plant is the plant that is mentioned in the Bible that talks about the herb that bears seed. This is the plant that people talk about as what could quite possibly literally be the tree of life. There are so many uses and so many benefits from this plant that even, I mean, ancient civilizations recognize this and have used it for thousands of years.
Right. And it's about to get back onto the list of helpful things in the United States.
I know. I mean, I'm all for advancements in technology. You know, I'm glad that we have vaccines, and I'm glad that we have some of the things we have. But you know, it's absurd to think that everything our ancestors did, that they were all, you know, Stone Age, you know, idiots. They didn't know what they were doing, and it's only been in the last 60 years that we've finally become intelligent and finally knew what was right and what was wrong. You know, things have pretty much, I think, gotten a lot worse as things have gotten, you know, more advanced. But I think that as we do go on, we definitely lose more in touch with who we are and who our ancestors were. And this is one of the things that cannabis is something that I mean, quite literally, you know, when I grow cannabis, this is something that I'm pretty sure that my ancestors did hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And, you know, to be sharing and partaking in that same ritual, and to understand that the plants and the things that the earth have given us are here for our use, not for our abuse. And the cannabis plant, I think, is the one of the most important, if not the most important, plant grown in the world today.
Yeah. And with a law that would allow us to use it, it would give us a way to show what is good and what's bad. You could find people that need abuse help, who are over medicating or over using cannabis, and we could give them the correct treatment, which is not jail time. You know, help them rehabilitate their life and give them the support that they need. When you get thrown into prison, that's no way to treat somebody that's using cannabis. And, you know, it's Cannabis Week here in Oregon. We're having a lot of our cannabis laws are doing their hearings through the through the Capitol. We got the legalization bill that is going to be heard tomorrow. I cannot remember the number for that one. You know, it's escaped my my mind too. I actually had that. We were going to talk about that last week, and we talked about 3460. Okay, so that one's tomorrow. Correct. Then on Wednesday, or tonight, I guess, since this airs on Wednesday, they're going to be hearing Senate Bill 281, and that should go through. It would be very embarrassing for Oregon if we didn't put that through, because we need to support our veterans and others who have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. We want to get them the help that they need and give them protections under the law as well. Absolutely. Yeah. And also, you know, what we've just said here, I consider and tell you all the benefits of, you know, of cannabis and everything like that. And, you know, one of the things that comes back to this catch-22 is a lot of activists are saying, you know what, we're begging people to prove us wrong. The DEA will not let us even prove that. And so the main, you know, point of our segment tonight is when they won't even let people study the plant, how can we know what the results are going to be? How can we get true definitions? So keep that in mind. We'll come out for the polls, support the cannabis movement, and support our troops. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Herb.